Hello from Paris. So Ed, you flew in from Corfu?
Yep.
You look like you don't know what sun cream is. I came in from Cyprus this morning. We came to Noir on Rue Cambon in Paris. If you don't know Noir, it's an amazing concept store. Fashion, tech, watches, art. One of my favourite places to shop here in Paris. And while these certain pieces were on tour, I wanted to take the opportunity to do a hands-on review and breakdown of the Label Noir Rolex Tourbillons. So what the brand have done is taken the Rolex watches and the Rolex movements and added functionality into the movements whilst not replacing them. So the movement is still a Rolex movement with components taken out and new components added in for tourbillon functionality. I'm going to talk to you about two models that they've done. I will start with the Milgauss, which is what they started with last year. Here is an example. Now the case remains unchanged in terms of thickness and size. It's still a Rolex case. They haven't changed anything of that. They've coated it in this matte grey DLC and a darker DLC bezel. The dial has been opened up to show the tourbillon that they've added into the reference 3131. The tourbillon that they've added into the reference 3131. Oh my God! So the 3131 is normally the caliber that goes inside the Milgauss. So what Label Noir have done, removed 51 components out of the movement and then modified a further 2 movements that are still remaining in the movement without taking them out and added in 94 separate components. That's what allows this tourbillon complication to be present within the reference 3131 caliber. As you can see, you have still the running seconds on the lightning hand that the Milgauss already has, but you have a further 1 minute rotating tourbillon. The thickness remains the same, though the anti-magnetic caseback which rests inside this outer caseback is removed to allow room for the additional mechanisms. So this was the first real tourbillon made from the Rolex movement, not a new movement put in that already had a tourbillon inside, but really to take an engine that was made by Rolex and add an additional functionality to it. This was something that they launched last year. The retail price was north of 100,000 euros. I believe all of the initial pieces were sold out and they started on a few new pieces recently. And what we saw last week was this. The Label Noir LNT02HS. I can't remember where the T is, so I'll tell you after. Using a Rolex Daytona 116520 as a base, the pre-ceramic bezel version. What they've done is removed the running second subdial, taken out 61 components, added in 93 components, which now converts that running second subdial into a fully functional tourbillon, which rotates a full rotation once every minute, so still acts as a running seconds indicator. They've modelled the dial on the Paul Newman. Which in a modern watch we've seen done quite a few times, and never with this additional tourbillon. They've gone with pump pushers as opposed to the screw down pushers which normally come with Daytona. I guess in keeping with the retro look of the watch. One thing to note on both watches from a technical point of view, the Rolex 3131 caliber and the Rolex 4130, which is in the Daytona, both normally run at a frequency of 4 Hz and a VPH, which is vibrations per hour, of 28,000. In order to ensure that the accuracy of the tourbillon is correct and to make sure there's enough power driven to that particular complication within the movement, the frequency is taken down both on the Milgauss and the Daytona to 3 Hz and a VPH of 21,600.
Can you explain that in layman terms?
In layman terms, what most people will know about Rolex is that the second hand, whether it's the stopwatch of the Daytona or the running seconds of the Milgauss, has a look as if it sweeps across the dial as opposed to ticking once per second as a quartz watch does. Normally on a Rolex is that it moves 8 times per second. So the movement of the running second hand is very smooth. 8 times per second translates to 28,000 times per hour. Now, in order to provide enough power and accuracy to the tourbillon, that amplitude is taken down slightly to 21,600 per hour, which works out to 21,600. 6 vibrations per second. Still very smooth, but from a technical point of view, something important to know. So the retail price of the Label Noir Daytona Tourbillon is north of 150,000 Swiss francs. If you compare to a normal Daytona retailing around 9,000 pounds, even in the residual market around 18,000 pounds, it's a big step. But when you look at really remodeling the engine and the amount of work that goes into it, the amount of R&D that's gone into making this functionality into an existing movement, it's different to designing a whole new movement with the tourbillon built around it, because you're taking something that has a finite amount of space to already working. You can't move so many pieces around. You have to retain the chronograph functionality, you have to retain the water resistancy, you have to retain all the functionality that was in the watch in the beginning, and also adding a new, very complicated element to it. I heard about the project around a year ago, and even since then there were a lot of developments. So it's always a controversial topic on watch customization, especially with brands like Rolex. So I would welcome thoughts and comments below on what you guys think of an evolution like this, as opposed to just recoloring and changing dials, but really using new technical features within existing engines of watches to improve or enhance functionality. That's it from us in Paris. We have a busy week. So goodbye from Nu, goodbye from me, goodbye from Slav.